The Eternal Bond, a Vampire's Love Story. Chapter 1, A Life Lost to War. The battlefield was chaos. The sound of cannons echoed across the fields, and the air was thick with smoke and the cries of the wounded. Gabriel had fought in many battles, but this one felt different. He knew the war would take something from him, something he could never replace. The letter came as the battle subsided. Delivered by a soldier with trembling hands, it carried the words Gabriel feared most: "Your wife, Eliza, is gone." She had died in the midst of a raid, the very war Gabriel fought in, stealing her away forever. Gabriel sank to his knees in the mud, clutching the letter. His heart broke in ways he didn't know were possible. That night, consumed by grief and despair, he left the camp and wandered into the woods. It was there he met the stranger. The man offered him immortality, an escape from pain and the burden of time. In his sorrow, Gabriel accepted without question. He became a vampire, cursed to live for eternity with the memory of Eliza's loss haunting him. Chapter 2, A Lifetime of Loneliness. Centuries passed, and Gabriel wandered the earth, moving from city to city, country to country. He avoided forming attachments, knowing the pain of loss all too well. His immortal life felt empty, each decade blending into the next. But Gabriel's memories of Eliza never faded. He remembered the way her laughter filled their small home, the way her touch brought him comfort, and the way her eyes sparkled with life. Even after 1,600 years, she was still his light in the darkness. By the time the 21st century arrived, Gabriel had grown tired of the ever-changing world. He settled in a quiet town, blending in with humans as best he could. He found solace in the simplicity of modern life, spending his nights in libraries or quiet cafes, lost in books and memories. Chapter 3, The Encounter. One rainy evening, Gabriel walked into a small coffee shop, seeking warmth and distraction. The place smelled of fresh coffee and vanilla, a comforting contrast to the chill outside. As he waited for his drink, he noticed her. She was sitting by the window, her head bent over a book, a steaming mug in her hands. Her dark hair fell in waves over her shoulders, and her features were strikingly familiar. Gabriel's chest tightened as he stared. It was impossible, but it was her. "Eliza," he whispered under his breath, his voice trembling. The woman looked up as if she had heard him, her eyes meeting his. For a moment, Gabriel felt the world tilt. Those eyes, they were hers. But how? His mind raced with questions. Could it be reincarnation? A trick of fate? Or something far more mysterious? Gabriel hesitated before approaching her. "Excuse me," he said softly, his voice laced with centuries of pain and longing. "Have we met before?" The woman tilted her head, a puzzled smile on her lips. "I don't think so," she replied. "But you look familiar." Her voice sent shivers through him. It was Eliza's voice, just as he remembered it. Gabriel's heart, long thought dead, began to beat again. Chapter 4, A Connection Rekindled. Over the next few weeks, Gabriel found himself visiting the coffee shop every evening, hoping to see her. Her name was Elise, and she was a historian, fascinated by the past. They struck up conversations about art, literature, and history, and Gabriel found himself drawn to her in ways he hadn't felt in centuries. Elise, too, felt an unexplainable connection to Gabriel. There was something timeless about him, as if he carried the weight of the world in his eyes. She found herself looking forward to their meetings, her heart fluttering every time he smiled. Gabriel couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. How could he explain his immortality? How could he tell her that she was the reincarnation of his lost wife? Instead, he cherished every moment they spent together, fearing that revealing his secret would drive her away. Chapter 5, The Shadows Return. But Gabriel's past refused to stay buried. One evening, as they walked through the park, a shadow emerged from the darkness. It was Victor, the vampire who had turned Gabriel centuries ago. "I've been watching you, Gabriel," Victor said, his voice cold. "You're breaking our rules. You know we cannot love humans." "She's not just anyone," Gabriel replied, stepping protectively in front of Elise. "She's everything." Victor's laughter was cruel. "Then you've doomed her. You know what happens to those who get too close to our kind. Fear gripped Gabriel. He had spent centuries avoiding attachments to protect others from the dangers of his world. But with Elise, he couldn't walk away. Chapter 6: The Revelation. That night, Gabriel knew he had to tell Elise the truth. He took her to the library where he often spent his evenings and shared his story, his life as a soldier, the loss of his wife, and the night he became a vampire. Elise listened in stunned silence. When he finished, she looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "You think I'm her, don't you?" she asked softly. "You're Eliza." Gabriel nodded. "I don't just think it. I feel it. You're her." Elise reached out and took his hand. "I don't know if I believe in reincarnation," she said, her voice trembling. "But I feel it too, Gabriel. I've felt it since the moment I met you." For the first time in centuries, Gabriel allowed himself to hope. Chapter 7: The Price of Love. Victor's threats loomed over them. Gabriel knew they couldn't stay in the town, it wasn't safe. He and Elise planned to leave, to start anew somewhere far away. But the night before they were to leave, Victor struck. He cornered Elise in the coffee shop, his eyes glowing with malice. "You've made him weak," Victor hissed. "And for that, you must pay." Gabriel arrived just in time to stop Victor from hurting her. The two vampires fought, their battle shattering the quiet of the night. Gabriel managed to overpower Victor, but not without injury. As Victor fled, Gabriel collapsed, weakened by his wounds. Elise cradled him in her arms, tears streaming down her face. "Don't leave me," she whispered. "I just found you." Chapter 8: The Twist of Fate. Gabriel looked up at her, his vision blurring. "Elise," he said softly. "You've given me something I thought I'd lost forever, love. But you deserve a life, a real life, free from danger." Before Elise could respond, a strange light enveloped them both. Gabriel's body began to change, his vampiric features fading. He gasped as he felt his heartbeat for the first time in centuries. The curse had been broken. Elise stared in awe. "How is this possible?" Gabriel smiled weakly. "Perhaps love is stronger than any curse." Epilogue: A New Beginning. With his humanity restored, Gabriel and Elise began their life together. The coffee shop became their haven, a place where their story had begun anew. Though Gabriel would never forget the pain of his past, he knew he had been given a second chance, not just at life, but at love. And this time, he wouldn't waste it. Vocabulary summary: immortal, living forever, not subject to death. Battlefield, a place where a battle is fought. Widower, a man who has lost his spouse by death and has not remarried. Haunting, something difficult to forget, often associated with sadness or fear. Transcend, to rise above or go beyond the limits. Ethereal, light, delicate, or heavenly. Connection, a relationship or link between people or things. Burden, a heavy load, often emotional or physical. Reincarnation, the rebirth of a soul in a new body. Curse, a supernatural force that causes harm or misfortune. Sacrifice, to give up something valuable for the sake of others. Redemption, the act of being saved from sin, error, or evil. Encounter, an unexpected or casual meeting. Resilient, able to recover quickly from difficult conditions. Serendipity, the occurrence of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way. Destiny, the events that will necessarily happen to a particular person in the future. Protector, someone who defends or guards another. Vengeance, punishment inflicted in retaliation for an injury or offense. Eternal, lasting forever, without end. Reunion, the act of coming together again after being apart.